There's a version of you that already knows exactly what to do next. Not a guru, not a guide, not some floating voice in the sky, but you, fully tuned, fully aware, and already in alignment with the reality you've been trying to create. It already exists, and the only thing separating you from it is distortion. Distortion in your thoughts, in your nervous system, in your emotional signature. That distortion is why you keep second-guessing your path, why your intuition seems unclear, why signs appear but you don't trust them. It's not because you're broken. It's because you haven't yet learned how to match the Chulta frequency of your higher self. And that's what this journey is about. Because your higher self isn't something you chase. It's not found on a mountaintop. It doesn't show up when you finally heal enough. It's something you tune into. Just like radio frequencies exist in the space around us. You right now, silent, invisible. So too does your higher self. You don't create it, you match it. And when you do, something begins to happen that no one quite prepares you for. Clarity arrives without effort. You don't need signs, because your entire body becomes the signal. Your thoughts begin to stabilize. Your energy becomes magnetic, and reality, the people, opportunities, ideas, begins to organize around you as if you finally remembered the pattern that was always meant for you. This isn't spiritual poetry. This is energetic architecture. In quantum mechanics, all possibilities already exist, in superposition, overlapping, What collapses those probabilities into form is not doing, but observing. And what determines what you observe is the state of your frequency. Your higher self is not just a concept. It's a frequency signature embedded in the quantum field. It is the version of you that's already chosen. Trust instead of fear, alignment instead of control, resonance instead of reaction. And that version of you already exists in the field. The question is, are you matching that signal, or are you reinforcing the frequency of your current limitations? To understand this, let's borrow from both the mystics and the physicists. Ancient teachings referred to the higher self as the oversoul, the aspect of consciousness that remains, untainted by ego, trauma, or time. It is the witness of your journey, the blueprint behind the mask. Meanwhile, modern quantum theorists like David Bohm proposed the idea of an implicate order, a hidden and folded reality beneath the visible world where all forms and outcomes already exist in potential. This implicate order isn't separate from you. You are it. Your thoughts, emotions, and identity are constantly emerging from this deeper energetic field. The higher self is not a new self. It's your original frequency before interference. How do you access this? The answer isn't in trying harder. It's in reprogramming your access point. Your mind is not just a tool for thinking. It's a tuner, a signal amplifier. If you're constantly tuned to doubt, stress, or urgency, you can't perceive the frequency of your higher self, even though it's always there. The way forward isn't force, it's resonance. Resonance means shifting your brainwave state, calming your nervous system, opening the heart field, and transmitting a new emotional signature, one that matches the elevated states of your higher self: peace, clarity, trust, vision, neutrality, joy. Most people try to think their way into their higher self. But the higher self doesn't speak in logic. It speaks in coherence. That's why intuitive downloads happen in the shower, nature, or in deep stillness, not in overthinking. You didn't force those moments. You dropped into alignment with a deeper stream of consciousness. That stream has always been available. You just weren't tuned to it until now. So here's the invitation. Instead of trying to become your higher self, ask, what would it feel like to match it now? What would my breath do? What thought would I stop thinking? What sensation in my body would I allow? These aren't just emotional questions, they're energetic calibrations. Each moment you drop into that inquiry, you send a new signal into the field. And the quantum field is not passive, it's listening. If you want to collapse into the version of yourself that already knows, already trusts, already leads, it starts with tuning. This isn't a one-time shift, it's a daily alignment. The longer you hold the signal, the clearer the channel becomes. The higher self is not a personality. It is a vibrational layer of your consciousness. Through frequency coherence and brain-heart integration, you can feel the connection, not just think about it. As you dissolve the interference patterns pulling you back into the self you're outgrowing, you remember what you've always carried, that the most powerful version of you is already broadcasting. You just need to listen. To understand the higher self in any meaningful way, you must abandon the idea that it is a distant destination. It's not a goal. It's not a role. It's not even a wiser version of your personality, waiting to descend once you've read enough books or healed enough trauma. The higher self is a field, a frequency layer of consciousness that already exists within and around you. The only question is, are you tuned to its signal or to the noise of your conditioning? In the classical Newtonian model, everything is made of matter. Things are separate, and influence is local and linear. But this worldview collapses at the quantum level. At the subatomic scale, particles don't behave like solid objects. They behave like waves of probability, invisible, interconnect, and not war. What happens here can instantly influence what happens there, because all things are entangled in a field of information and consciousness. This consciousness is not an emergent property of the brain. It is the organizing force behind reality itself. Physicists like David Bohm and neuroscientists like Carl Pribram proposed models where the brain is not the generator of consciousness, but a receiver tuning into different layers of the universal field. This field contains everything, every possible version of you, every potential outcome, every intuitive knowing you think you have to figure out. The higher self is simply the part of you that remains in full coherence with that field. It doesn't waver. It doesn't question. It doesn't resist. It is always present, always stable, always vibrating at a higher order. What makes the higher self higher is not that it's floating above you in some celestial hierarchy, but that it operates with less distortion, less attachment, and less fragmentation. It sees reality as a pattern, not a problem. It holds perspective while the ego reacts. And because it's not fused to your personal history, it can access futures you haven't yet imagined. Think of your consciousness as a layered spectrum. At the bottom are the dense reactive states: survival, mode, hypervigilance, ego defense, scarcity thinking. These frequencies are biologically real. Live in them long enough, and they become your identity. Your brain wires itself to them. Your nervous system adapts to them. Your choices reinforce them. and reality mirrors them back, not because you're cursed, but because you're coherent with them. Above that is a different bandwidth, the frequency of trust, clarity, compassion, and vision. This isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about seeing through a wider lens, the lens of presence. The higher self lives in that bandwidth, and it's available the moment you match its signature. You don't have to become worthy. You simply have to stop tuning into distortion. Imagine two radios. One is static. The other is a symphony. You can't hear both at once. If your attention, breath, thoughts, and feelings are locked on the noise, you become the noise. But the moment you shift, even slightly, toward coherence, when your breath slows, your thoughts soften, and your nervous system settles, you begin receiving the other signal. That's where the guidance lives. This isn't mystical, it's mechanical. It's vibrational. And it can be trained, strengthened, and stabilized. One of the most direct access points to the higher self is heart-brain coherence, a state where your emotional field, centered in the heart, synchronizes with your neurological rhythms. Research from the HeartMath Institute shows that in this state, intuition increases, perception expands, and your brain becomes more receptive to insight. This is entrainment. The more you practice coherence, the more your biology aligns with the frequency of your higher self. Neuroscience also shows that when your brain shifts into alpha and theta wave states, typically through meditation, breath work, or deep presence, it tunes into subtle information. You stop reacting and start receiving. You're no longer chasing answers in the noise, you're hearing them in the calm. Where most people go wrong is trying to force the connection. They meditate with tension, visualize from desperation, or speak affirmations while still tuned into fear. That sends mixed signals into the field. The quantum field doesn't respond to your words. Tum responds to your coherence. That's why we have to move beyond information and into integration. Knowing the higher self exists isn't enough. You have to live in ways that stabilize your access to it. This is frequency hygiene. Becoming so emotionally disciplined and vibrationally aware that you notice the instant you slip out of alignment and choose to return. And when you return, even for a moment, the field responds. Not with fireworks or instant miracles, but with subtle, intelligent shifts. A new idea, a different feeling, a release of tension, a chance encounter, a deeper breath. These are the signatures of alignment. This is how your higher self speaks, not in loud commands, but in quiet coherence. So how do you tune into the frequency of your higher self? Now that we've decoded its quantum nature, coherent, non-local frequency already embedded in the field, the next step is practical. How do you match it in daily life? How do you stabilize it so it's not just a fleeting glimpse during meditation, but a lived resonance shaping your thoughts, actions, and NaltiI. And outcomes? The answer is simple. Not easy, but simple. You match the frequency of your higher self by regulating your own broadcast, your breath, your emotions, and your dominant mental signal. These three, respiration, emotion, and intention, form the vibrational code. The quantum field responds, too. And when they're in alignment, the field doesn't hesitate. It reorganizes matter and circumstance around the frequency you emit. Let's start with the breath. Why is breath so essential? Because breath is not just oxygen. It is your moment-to-moment interface with the field. The rhythm of your breath reflects the rhythm of your nervous system. And your nervous system is the antenna through which you receive higher information. When your breath is short, shallow, or erratic, your body enters incoherence, often survival mode. But when your breath is slow, deep, and rhythmic, you signal to your system, I am safe. I am present. I am available to receive. That shift alone begins to change your brainwave state, moving you into alpha or even theta, doorway states to intuitive guidance and creative insight. Step 1 in tuning into the higher self. Breathe. You already trust life. Now we move to emotion. In quantum language, emotion is energy in motion, the most powerful amplifier of your signal. The quantum field doesn't organize around thoughts alone. It responds to the emotional charge behind those thoughts. That's why visualizations without feeling lack magnetism. When you want to access the higher self, you must generate the emotional frequency that already exists at that level. Not neediness or grasping, but elevated states like gratitude, peace, love, awe, surrender, and trust. These emotions are not rewards you get after manifestation. They are the signal that activates the version of you who already has what you desire. Even if it feels artificial at first, you're training your body to match that higher frequency. Ask yourself, what would my higher self feel like right now in this exact situation? Urgency or stillness? Doubt or relaxation? Need for proof or quiet trust? The emotional tone of your higher self is your compass. Every time you match it, you collapse more of that version into your present timeline. Now the third element, intention. This is the conscious direction of your energy. Intention is not control. It's not forcing outcomes. It's choosing the frequency you will hold no matter what circumstances appear. Setting an intention from the heart is not declaring a demand. It's setting a vibrational trajectory. It's like tuning a radio. The frequency is always there. But your conscious intention tells your system where to lock in. The field then begins to rearrange people, events, and opportunities to reflect that new frequency. Here's how to bring it all together in a simple 5-minute morning practice. Sit still, close your eyes, place your hand over your heart. Breathe in through your nose for a count of 4, hold briefly, and exhale through your mouth for 6. Repeat 3 times. As your breath slows, bring to mind a version of yourself who already lives with clarity. Don't focus on details, focus on the feeling. Ask, what does it feel like to trust myself fully today? Let that feeling expand. Speak your intention in the present tense. Today I am clarity. I am the signal. Feel it as truth. Sit in silence for 60 seconds, simply receiving this alignment. Breath, emotion, and intention can calibrate your field. They don't fix your life. They shift the version of you who is living it. And in quantum reality, that's the only change that matters. When the observer changes, the observed changes. But even with this practice, many sabotage their access to the higher self through unconscious mental scripts that contradict it. They say, I am peace, while internally thinking, well, what if this doesn't work? They set an intention, but don't trust it, and the field mirrors their true broadcast, not their words. This interference comes from low-frequency narratives running beneath your alignment, pulling you back into the old identity. Your thoughts don't need to be overtly negative to misalign you. They only need to be incoherent. If you affirm I am abundance, but spend the day mentally calculating your bank balance, the signal you're sending is lack. If you say I trust the flow but constantly check, micromanage, and analyze outcomes, you're broadcasting mistrust. The quantum field is neutral. It mirrors your dominant frequency without judgment. So how do you shift your internal script? Not by force or fighting every thought. You reprogram your signal by replacing the old code, not logically but vibrationally. Here's the key. Your subconscious mind doesn't understand complex arguments. It doesn't need paragraphs. It responds to repetition, rhythm, and it responds to frequency. That means your job is not to debate the old story. It's to replace it with a new signal. Start with this. Identify the top 3 unconscious beliefs that keep looping in your inner world. You'll recognize them because they usually start with, I'm not, I can't, or what if. Examples might be, I'm not ready, what if I fail, or it always falls apart. Don't judge them, just observe. Then ask, what is the vibrational opposite of that belief? If the old loop is, I'm not ready, the new signal could be, I am prepared by presence. If the old loop is, what if I fail? The new signal becomes, I trust what flows. If the old code is, it always falls apart, the new one, everything is reorganizing. Now speak the new code aloud, but not just from your throat. Say it from your field. Say it from your breath. Say it with emotion. Speak it slowly, repeatedly, until your nervous system begins to relax into it. This isn't about believing it right away. It's about becoming vibrationally familiar with it. When you do this every day, especially in altered brainwave states like right after waking or just before sleep, you start installing a new operating system, not just mentally, but energetically. This is the art of reprogramming. You are not affirming a fantasy. You are transmitting a frequency, one that eventually becomes your baseline. And the moment your baseline shifts, reality begins, responding to that new signal, not as a reward, but as a reflection. So here's your code to begin with. It's simple. It's powerful. It's the phrase that unifies the theme of this journey, the energy of your higher self, and the intention behind this practice. I am reprogramming. Say it out loud now, not with force, but with feeling. Again, I'm reprogramming. Let your body hear it. Let the field feel it. This phrase isn't magic, it's alignment. Every time you say it from the right emotional state, you broadcast a signal to the quantum field. I am no longer participating in the old reality. I am collapsing the version of me aligned with limitation. I am transmitting a new blueprint. Not because you need life to change, but because you already have. When you speak it consistently, especially in a shared space or community, it becomes more than a phrase. It becomes a quantum ritual. Each time you declare, I'm reprogramming, you collapse intention into visibility. You send the message to the field. This is who I choose to be starting now. Over time, your identity catches up. Your environment starts to reflect your new baseline. Life begins to feel lighter, clearer, more fluid. Not because circumstances magically fix themselves, but because you're no longer running on inherited scripts. You're transmitting the frequency of the self you were, always meant to live from. So what does it feel like to live in tune with the frequency of your higher self? Not just during meditation or in quiet moments, but in daily life, when faced with decisions, relationships, challenges, and uncertainty. The most immediate shift is subtle, but unmistakable. Urgency dissolves. The energy of rushing disappears. You move with precision, not pressure. Even when the outer world demands speed, something inside you remains centered. This doesn't mean you become passive. The aligned self is deeply effective, but never chaotic, because it's not reacting, it's responding. There's a trust that arises in timing, in space, in the intelligence of the unseen. It's not naive, it's vibrational, built on experience. The more you align, the more you notice how reality responds to your coherence. Synchronicities appear. The right people show up at the right time. Insights drop in without forcing. Obstacles dissolve without confrontation. The field flows around you, not because life became easier, but because you stopped being the resistance. Aligned individuals often describe this state as quiet power. It's not loud. It's not performative, but it's magnetic. You walk into a room and people feel something. Not ego, not ambition, but presence. And presence is power. In energetic terms, your heart field expands. Your nervous system calms others. You become a node of stability in a distracted world. And you're not doing it to prove anything. You're doing it because this is who you are without the noise. Now, let's talk about decisions, because this is where most people fall out of alignment. When you're living from your conditioned self, decisions feel heavy. You overanalyze. You fear regret. You play out every scenario. But when you're in tune with your higher self, decisions become lighter. They're not about perfect outcomes. They're about resonance. You start asking different questions. What feels aligned? What choice supports my frequency? What version of me does this decision reinforce? You're no longer choosing from fear. You're choosing from frequency. This has ripple effects. Relationships shift. People who once triggered you no longer hold the same charge. Not because they've changed, but because you're no longer resonating with the same wound. Conversations become cleaner. Boundaries become softer, but firmer. You stop convincing, proving, explaining. You simply are, and the field adjusts. Time changes too. The past feels lighter, less defining. The future feels more spacious, less demanding. You live more fully in the present, not because it's trendy, but because that's where the signal is strongest. You realize your power isn't in controlling what happens next. It's in becoming the version of you who already knows how to navigate it. That's what the higher self embodies. Unshakable presence. Another sign of alignment. Creativity opens. Ideas flow steadily, not just in bursts. You're no longer blocked by perfectionism or fear of judgment because you're not creating from identity. You're transmitting from frequency. Whether you're writing, speaking, building, or simply living, your expression becomes clearer, cleaner, magnetic. People feel it, not because you're louder, but because your resonance is pure. Your energy body shifts too. Your heart feels more open. Your breath feels deeper. Your body feels less tense, more fluid. These aren't just physical sensations. They're signs. You've left survival mode. You're creating safety from within, and that safety is the foundation for true expansion. Does this mean you never get triggered or doubt? yourself, no. The aligned self still faces challenges. The difference is in how you return. You catch misalignment faster. You don't spiral as far. You remember truth sooner. That's the gift of coherence. You recalibrate quickly. And with every recalibration, the signal strengthens. The timeline stabilizes. You stop needing external confirmation because inner resonance becomes your compass. In the final step, we anchor this shift with a daily energetic ritual, simple, grounded, powerful, to hold the signal of your higher self. Because this isn't just a teaching, it's a recalibration. And the more consistently you live from this place, the more life will respond in ways that leave you breathless. Each morning, before your old identity wakes up, before your nervous system remembers the story you've been living, give yourself space to choose again. Sit. Breathe. Place a hand over your heart. Inhale for a count of 4. Hold. Exhale for 6. 3 times. Ask without judgment, what frequency do I wish to hold? Today? Not what you want to achieve, not what must happen, just what you wish to transmit. Maybe it's clarity. Maybe it's peace. Maybe it's magnetic presence. Let your body feel it, not perfectly, but honestly. Then speak your anchor phrase, the one we've been using at I am reprogramming. Let it be your tuning fork. Say it slowly, softly from your field. Let it echo through your nervous system, your emotional body, your quantum signature. You're not commanding the universe, you're informing it. Broadcasting a new template. Then carry it into your day, not as a mantra, but as an energy. Walk slower. Listen deeper. Speak with awareness. Every signal you send into the field either reinforces your past or collapses you into your potential. You don't have to get it perfect. You don't have to stay high vibe all the time. You just have to return over and over. Because the return, the marisaj, the higher self isn't a mystical ideal you reach. It's the version of you that keeps choosing coherence, especially when it's easier not to. With practice, you'll feel the shift before you think, it moving from force to flow, grasping to receiving, distortion to clarity. That shift is where timelines diverge. That's quantum alignment. So let this be your baseline. Breath, emotion, intention, repetition, and resonance, recalibration. Once felt, it can never be unfelt. The higher self is no longer a theory. It's a vibration living inside you. Take one last breath. Anchor the phrase again. I am reprogramming. Let it live in your chest, hum in your field. And when you open your eyes, do it not to the same world, but to the reality your new signal is already calling in. Welcome to the frequency of your higher self.